We have Arun here. He is the senior product manager at Microsoft. He has been building features related to AI and other general features as well. And he's here today with us to share a bit more about how PMs are incorporating AI in their own workflows, right? And he has been guiding a lot of students over the past 8 to 8 to 10 months actually, in terms of understanding how AI is getting incorporated in the product manager's overall life cycle as well, right? So Arun, over to you.
Hey, thanks, Akshi, and good morning, all. Happy Sunday. Thank you for spending your time on a Sunday morning. This is slightly unlike the type of sessions that I've done in the past. I try to do a lots of hands-on, and that is where the fun or the meat of content is. But today, the idea was how do PMs incorporate AI features, or how do PM start looking at AI as a enabler for feature or product development, right? So what I thought was there is so much content, and there is so many things that we can talk about, from ideation to development to deployment to metrics to evaluation to fine tuning, model selection. Um, the best way I thought to do it is probably touch upon the resources where you can go and read and get into depth of all of those. But for a PM who's getting started, what are those essential roadmap sort of thing that today you are a PM and probably in a week's time you want to get started using AI in the next set of features or products that you are building, right? So how do you go about that? With that context, I'll quickly share my screen. Let me know once you're able to see it. Let me see if I can select a window. Are you able to see the shared window now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. Fantastic. So, okay, how to build AI features as PM, right? There are multiple aspects which are doing rounds, and it is good to see folks who are senior, who are at GPM level, or um, upwards of 15, 20 years of experience also in this session. So, thank you so much for taking time and trusting us with doing this. A lot of things that I'll try to cover in the first half are already done in a lot of depth by us over the last 1 year since AI started becoming the new normal. I think in the yesterday session, some JDs were also shown, and there was also talk about how the role itself is evolving with the new expectations from PM to also vibe code or create MVPs and do quick prototyping, quick deployments, right? So what we'll try to do is, if you are a PM, how are you thinking about your product solutioning, vibe coding, quick prototyping? How do you select the right LLMs for the feature that you want to build? How can you fine tune them? And eventually, what are the metrics that you should be looking when you build these AI features, right? So, what we are not touching upon at this point of time, and I have consciously not touched it, is the problem space, or the discovery part of your product. And that, we think, because most of the audience in the call is already PM, so you have that sorted out. You know your persona, you know their pain points, and you know their problems. If I generalize this to an e-commerce, or if I generalize this to a quick delivery, say a fintech, then it defeats the purpose for the other set of audience who might be sitting from a SaaS background or from a um, marketplace background, right? So we will try to focus on the later two Ds of product development. So first one is, of course, discover and define. We are assuming you have done the discovery part of your product and you know what the definition of your problem is, and then it's about develop and deliver, which can get really fast with a lot of uh, things which are happening on AI, right? How do we make that happen? What are you already doing, and what can you do better? What are some resources that you can start reading, referencing, and start implementing in your job? And what can be your go-to mechanism to be more productive, more recruitable, and more scalable growth driver universe of AI in your product, right? So with that context, let's get started. Again, just reiterating, I'll not be focusing on problem or industry specific domains, because that will defeat the purpose of different people coming from different backgrounds, and most of us come with their own understanding of their customer, their problem statement. What we will do is, once you know what your problems are, how do you solve them with AI, and how do you make those quick decisions, right? The agenda would look like something like this. We'll touch upon low code, no code, choice of LLMs. You can go to our YouTube channel. We have done enough detailed sessions on um, vibe coding, no code tools, Lovable, Replit, Bolt.new. We were the first ones who brought Bolt.new and Replit sessions, in, at least in India, 1.5 year back, when it was not even a thing which was known, right? So we have sessions as old as that, and we have done end-to-end development, API, databases, integration, deployment, everything sessions on low code, no code. So this topic probably I'll not go very deep into. I'll probably just breeze through it and talk about what's happening, what are the tools that you should be trying. I'm pretty sure most of you are already doing Lovable, Replit, Cursor, whichever your ID, Mojo is, or even GitHub Copilot for that matter, right? So next one would be choice of LLMs. Once you know, okay, I have a problem to solve, I have built a working prototype on one of these low code no code tools. Which LLM should I use, and how do I do cost optimization as a PM? What are the parameters that I should be looking at? This again, I leave you with two tools, which we again cover in detail in our cohort learning around how do you use these tools. But I will leave you with good amount of understanding of, if you know a problem statement, and if you know uh, the transaction volume that is coming towards you, how do you decide which model would work best for you? Then on the second half of the session is where we'll spend maximum of our time. How do PM do really good fine tuning, and what are the metrics that you can look to evaluate around that fine tuning, and individual parameters, task specific, any particular feature that you are launching, how do you write fine tuning prompts, and how do you evaluate that? That is what we'll try to majorly keep hands on. As I said, because I was told that it's a 45-minute session in terms of delivery, that's why I'm trying to make sure that I give you as much content as I can in terms of consumption. When you start implementing it, these content would definitely come in handy for you to get started. Um, Unlike my taste, there is not a lot of hands on the session today, but it is a lot of theory. And so grab your coffees, grab your cup of chais, and let's breeze through it, right? I'll start with this one. And this is a post that most of you who are PMs might be following. Akash Gupta, the product growth guy, right? He posted this yesterday. So this is the expectation. Google PM interview, and there was expectation of vibe coding. And those of you who know vibe coding, great. Those of you who don't know vibe coding, please start doing it. Please start creating some applications, maybe your finance management app, your budget tracking app, or your grocery listing shopping app, or your flight booking itineraries, travel apps that are not related to your job but makes you comfortable with these IDs like Lovable, Cursor, Replit, so on and so forth. And you have a portfolio which shows, hey, these are the sort of applications that I have built end to end. Maybe something which is very as simple as podcast curator, right? You might listen to hundreds of podcasts. How do you crystallize them, and then how do you bring it in your phone library where you can just hear the top five, right? So build those type of applications and be comfortable with vibe coding. As I said, uh, I'll not be going into a lot of depth around vibe coding today, but to give you an understanding what's exactly happening, see the expectation. Though you might be appearing in big tech interviews, if you are especially appearing for an AI PM interview, it is expected that one of the dedicated rounds would be around LLM evaluations. How do you pick LLMs? What are the metrics? Or around vibe coding and spec coding, right? Just read this and just try to assess for yourself what the person was doing and what the person was not doing. And if all of this is sounding like Greek and Latin and Mandarin to you, then I think you are not off the coast, you are not off the ship, you are almost drowning, right? So you should very quickly learn to swim with the AI wave, start floating, start coming to the surface, and realize this is a reality. Gone are the days when you were doing design and improvement on pen and paper and saying, I'll make this, I'll make that, and I'll probably launch this in 6 months. You have to actually tell how would you vibe code, how would you go around defining the edge cases, how would you define about integrating the data set, and how would you take care of security and viability, right? So this is an experience, and we have also spoken, I think it was sometime last month when we did a mock interview for AIPM, and the person that we were doing mock interview with, you can go and look at their LinkedIn profile. You can also look at our YouTube video. That person has now converted an AIPM role. So one of the rounds that Sushil also had was around vibe coding. So it is not something that is going away. This is something which is here to stay, and you have to make sure that you are comfortable about not only doing this with your passion projects, your on the job training, but also uh, talk through it in a use case of 45-minute interview in one of these big tech firms, right? The question might just be, hey, we want to launch a new refrigerator for kids. How would you vibe code it? Now think of totally different from design and improvement question. How would you tackle it, right? There are two things that have changed in the recent times, and those of you who don't know, let me Amazon, for a lot of time we were thinking, is lacking in this race. Other than reinforcement learning, they did not bring in a lot of things which was challenging LLMs and which was challenging these platforms like Cursor, Replit, Bolt.new. They just launched Kiro, which is their own IDE. If you have not already tried it, I will share a link here. This is the Kiro purview of Amazon. You can sign up here. You can just see at the bottom of the link. It's you can just click Discord server, or you can click on getting started, and it will take you to this link, right? And there is a wait list that they are having. I think by now most of it would be filled, so whenever they launch it, they will inform. This becomes the part of your portfolio, right? You have to, let me in fact put this in the chat, so that, and someone, if you can please keep collating these resources. I'll be sharing a lot of resources today. I'll also try to keep collating it. So this is the Amazon Kiro dev waitlist. As you, okay, resources shared. So as you go through this, right, as you look at these things, make sure that you are trying these out. Again, as I said, we'll not be going into a lot of vibe coding, but I will also share these two very relevant videos. It was also shared by our VP recently. Vibe coding or prompt engineering is more or less, prompt engineering is definitely dead. Like iterational one without context prompting is not something that PMs or engineers are expected to do. General janta who's using these LLM models or LLM applications, they are expected to do it. But context engineering and everything is spec based prototyping is what you need to focus on. What exactly that is, how do you make it happen, what are the best practices, and how do you co-develop with your engineers is something that you should definitely try. We all write spec documents, but how spec documents can be written with the context of the code repositories, and how they can uh, work in tandem with an engineer and you both contributing towards the code. I'll share both of these videos. Please do give them a watch, and not just give them a watch, probably also imbibe in this in your daily work experience to understand what spec based coding is. Because today they are asking vibe coding, very soon in interviews they'll start asking spec based development. And let me just share these links as well. This is spec based development, and this is this, and then context engineering. Context engineering. Yep. So this is just for you to get started, and I'm sure a lot of you are already doing a lot on vibe coding, and you have seen our videos, you have been hands-on with us. It's very vanilla. Everyone is doing it. If you are someone who does not fall into that category of everyone, please start doing it. It's not a humble request, it's a suggestion towards upskilling at this point of time to stay relevant in the industry, right? Let's move on to the second one, which is choice of LLMs. Now, what I'll do is first I'll share these two tools with you so that in your organizations also, when you're picking if I should use Grok 4, if should use Gemini 2.5, or if I should use Claude, the recent one which was launched, how do I evaluate them, right? Let me just so let's just look at this together, right? If I am evaluating, say, models for performance, for intelligence, for speed or price, I know my use cases and we'll work through an actual example of that, right? So if you look at this, let's just look at some of the scores and I'll talk to you about scores. How do you go about reading this and what exactly each of these scores is? When you evaluate a model, if you're trying it to do um, multitasking, or if you are trying it to do code benchmarking, how do they perform, right? These are those performance indicators. And one of the resources that I'll share with you is this MMLU, this resource where you can read about each of these benchmarks. How are these LLM models evaluated? If you want to understand, hey, how does Codex as a score is given, you might be seeing in this website that I've given, right? All the models like Grok 4 came out, it has an MMLU score or multitasking score of 87.3%. How is this calculated? If you want to read more about it, how is it calculated and what is the source, I will share this link. All the parameters and all the maths behind every parameter is there. You in your product manager role needs to understand which model and on which benchmark is important. So if you're looking for uh, human like artificial reasoning, then it is ARC that you would need to go for, right? So selecting an LLM model is, let's go on to this. These are the things that a PM needs to make sure of, and probably take a note of this. We'll also share the recording, but I don't think we'll share the deck. So as a PM, you would know what is the latency that your user can wait for. Latency as in, hey, I ask your product or feature for a recommendation, and that recommendation should come in less than 1 second. That is your performance requirement. Second is, what sort of data do you have available? Uh, Imagine you are a PM in some fintech company, and the data that you have available is stock prices of all NSE, BSE, and ticker symbols of all of these stocks, right? That is your data available. It can be loaded in 1.5 second, and the trade should be completed in 3 seconds. So that is your performance requirement within 3 seconds. If and what is the volume, right? How much is the volume of transaction? Maybe 10,000 transactions are coming for all the data of stocks, and the latency within which each transaction should be processed is 3 minutes. This is the functional requirement that a PM needs to give, with the domain relevance, of course. Like you are fintech, you are edtech, you are e-commerce. Generally in transactional businesses like e-commerce, you can live with latency, but in quick atomic businesses where you execution is the key, banking, fintech, you cannot compromise on latency. You can compromise on data availability, but you cannot compromise on performance and latency. Quick commerce, OTT, recommendation engines, all of that you cannot compromise on data availability. The better your data, the more the data you have, the better your recommendation and your conversion rates would be. So your domain relevance with your data availability or performance requirement and latency requirement, once these are defined, that will help you understand what exactly is the task that your user is trying to do, and which metric or which type of measure would you use to evaluate an LLM, right? So it goes in this fashion. You know your domain, you're operating as a PM in fintech. You define your performance and latency requirements with the data availability that you have. A combination of all of this is what your user wants. Now, on top of it, for every 10,000 user queries that you resolve, how much is the cost that you are willing to spend? How much is the money that you're willing to spend on these LLM models? That is your budget constraints. With all of these, with these understandings, what you go and do is, okay, I know for every 100 queries I'm willing to spend $1, and the latency that I'm looking for is probably less than 10 millisecond for my response. I go into one of these tools, either artificial intelligence, artificial analysis.ai, or I go to LLM stats. I pick the models basis either costing, performance, or your latency, right? So if you see here, there is speed, there is price, and there is intelligence. So, and right now I've selected all the models. Assume you just want to operate with the top four which have been released at this point. So you can just say um, Grok Grok 4 is what I'm evaluating. I'm evaluating Llama 4 Scout. I'm evaluating Gemini 2.5 Pro, and I'm evaluating GPT's Claude 3.7. Opus is not stable yet, so let's go for 3.7 because it is stable, Claude 3.7. And I'm probably also evaluating um, DeepSeek is out of picture. It's banned in India. So if Grok, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, do we have something from Quen? Not needed. GPT, let's take GPT O3 or O4. Let's take GPT O3. Now, you have added these 5 models. You know what your price consideration are. Are you looking for reasoning versus non-reasoning, right? Are you reasoning for proprietary information which is stored in your enterprise, or is it open weights? Look at this. Then all the graphs that you see in this website, right? Intelligence evaluation, their MMLU score, their code bench, how well can they do coding for you? How can they do scientific discovery, maths, reasoning problems, how well they are able to solve? Consider all of this. This is your solving for the top 3 parts that we spoke about, which is data availability, performance, and latency, right? Then look at your, and if there is a specific metric around, if you're just looking at coding, then you can just look at coding. Once you know this, then you go for intelligence versus price, where you identify the second half of the budget constraint that your application has, right? We have a budget of every year as an e-commerce company, we are getting uh, 1 million users who on an average query 10 times. So 10 million queries in a year. For these 10 million queries, we have a budget of say 10K, right? So the conversion rate is 0.01%. You go into this, you look which model surfaces it the best. If you look price, right, to intelligence index, probably this one will make a case. You would definitely want to go, if till now you are looking at these, you would say I want to go with Grok. But when you look at pricing, you might say, okay, I can either pay for Gemini 2.5 or O3, and my cost per million tokens would be this. Million tokens, you also need to understand how per response, what is the token limit that you have kept. Generally we keep it as 300 or 500 tokens. For transactional businesses, I think 300 is a very good count of tokens. So with 300 tokens, if it's a million, then 0.33 million, and the queries that I had was around 10 million. So 0.33 into 10 is 3.3, and that comes to 33,000. I only have budget of probably 10,000 that is there at disposal. Do I go for Llama 4 Scout or do I go for Gemini O3, right? I'm doing some quick math here, but like when we do it in cohort, we take some applications and do this analysis. But I'm hoping when you do it in your organization, you can also evaluate it like this. Plus, you look at the speed and latency. And if you look at speed and latency, of course, you would again want to go for O3 and Gemini. So when we started off with, right, we were looking at, from performance perspective, we were looking at Grok 4. But when I looked at pricing and latency and speed, one is performance, which is how fast is the output, and then there is latency, how much time does it take to response. So if you see, Gemini has a very high latency, time taken to answer first token, and there are two metrics, which is FCFR and FCLR, which is first count first response and first count last response. So when is the first token come and when is the last token come, you measure latency both of them, then decide, okay, probably O3 is the model that I need to go for amongst all of these that I've evaluated. Now the confusion is, hey, do I go for O3 or do I go for Gemini 2.5 Pro, which is where your LLM stats comes in handy. Here what you can do is you can just add models side by side. So I have, let me add models. I have Gemini 2.5 Pro, 2.5 Pro, and I have GPT-3, GPT-3. And this will actually give you the numbers or the presentation that you can give it to your organization. Input tokens, output tokens, is this is the cost for per million token. This is the GPT turbo evaluation, one against the other, right? And all the metrics that ideally you would want to look what is the release timeline, what is the knowledge cutoff, what is the provider availability, where can we have, if our stack is entirely on Azure. If your stack is not on Azure, then probably you might consider Gemini. But if you're on Azure, then you know OpenAI you can only access on Azure stack, right? And this is the pricing. And this entire report gives you a breakdown of each of the things that you need to consider. Of course, I cannot, because of time dearth, I cannot define all of these parameters, but I hope this kind of gives you a high level understanding or the idea of what do you need to do when you select your use case, define the performance, define the availability, define the latency, and this becomes a part of a product lifecycle now, right? If you think of a product lifecycle, you do the model size consideration, you train your data which is available, you do which selection of the model, then you do the fine tuning process and matrix which is inferencing. This is the new life cycle of product development with AI products. And we have told you 1, 2 and 3, like with how you go about it. We'll cover 4 and 5 again. There are certain metrics and I'll give you links. How do you read about them? I'll be sharing one of the links, which is uh, if you look at this, right, there is, if you see retrieval, response, cost, latency, I will give this, I'll share this link when we cover the metrics. But when you have selected a model and when you have built a feature and capability on top of it and you have deployed it, what are the things that you need to keep in mind? One thing is accuracy, like the user, when they are asking a response, is it getting the accurate response or not? Second is your rogue metric, which is if you have your own database, if you are creating a RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation, you have your proprietary data. While giving the responses, is the model able to exactly pick from that or not? If is there a need of human evaluation where you ask after every feedback, did you like the response, did you not like the response, option A versus option B, which one did you like? And are there biases and fairness that you can evaluate in your model, right? So these are the sort of things that you need to keep in mind while you are evaluating LLMs. And this also kind of becomes your interview answers. How do you, as a product manager, how do you define the requirements? How do you pick the LLM model? How do you define the metrics on top of that? Let's go to the second part of it, which is fine tuning. But before I go to fine tuning, let me share this Bible of fine tuning. It's one of the most comprehensive resources that you'll come across for fine tuning. It has everything, be it data scientists, be it machine learning, be it product managers, anyone who's trying to fine tune their products. And you need to fine tune your products. You can't just expose these LLM models as is to your customers. If you just expose your LLM models as is to your customers, your credit card bills will tell you how bad that is. Why you need to do fine tuning, and we have done sessions on that, so not derailing into that direction. But fine tuning is telling the LLM model, say, I am a product manager in Zepto and I am deploying you to answer customer queries related to their orders. Only answer this. Don't answer random stuff like how can I go to Mars, right? That is where fine tuning comes in handy. Let me share this to give you a context of why I am calling this a Bible. If I am someone who's just trying to do fine tuning for finance, there is an entirely dedicated section for finance domain which tells you which base model can you use, what are the fine tuning parameters, what data sets, most importantly, what data sets can you use to train your model, and it gives you step by step instruction of how do you do parameter tuning. Let me just here. Yes. So this diagram that you see, right? Let's come back to this. This is the life cycle of uh, fine tuning. So you prepare your data, you initialize your model, you choose your pre-trained model, you give your weights and you pre-train it. Data preparation is one place where PMs come in. Training setup is one place where PMs can give the tasks around which the data training needs to happen. Fine tuning is the one, and evaluations is these stage 1, partially 3, 4 and 5 is where you as PM come in and contribute very significantly, right? And when you do fine tuning, what are the type of fine tuning algorithms? How do you choose between one? What are the pro and cons of each one of them? What is task based fine tuning? What is domain based fine tuning? Um, all of that is covered really comprehensively, really well in this article. It is a very terse article. It will take a lot of time to read it. But once you know that, okay, this is my domain and this is what I'm looking for this article, it will really come in handy. We'll do this with an example probably. Let me just pick an example of e-commerce. If I am an e-commerce product manager, right, and I am looking to build LLM based feature, first thing that I need to do is I need to look at my use case, and my use cases can be any one of them, right? I want to do sentiment analysis of all the customer reviews that I get, or I might be doing fraud detection where I'm trying to detect which transaction or which users are fraudulent, right? Then I have to, or I can do optimization of search reporting. I can do product recommendation, which is the recommendation engine. I can do customer support, or I can do product categorization like cataloging and inventory management of product. Assume I'm a product manager at Flipkart and I'm wanting to do product categorization. What are the steps that I need to follow, right? So once you know this product categorization, you just go through this life cycle. I have to do data collection, data cleaning, data augmentation, and data splitting. What is all of this? Sounds like rocket science. Just go and read this. Just type data cleaning, and it starts from the very basic. What do you need to do on stage one? Data preparation, data collection. If you have data in these formats, these are the library links that you can use. This is how you can store it. Once you have done that, what do you need to do in terms of data pre-processing and formatting? Every instruction step by step. If you have data imbalances, if you have biases, or if you have um, any inappropriate harmful content, how to detect that, how do you split data set. So every instruction you can follow step by step with the tools and technology that you might be wanting to use is given in this article. And that's why I said it's kind of bible of fine tuning. Now let's go into the second step, right, where I will be conferring the hyperparameters. What are hyperparameters? That the top k, top p, sampling frequency, noise detection, all of that. If you have not read all of this, defining the hyperparameters, just search here. See, it tells you all the type of hyperparameters. Fine tuning an LLM involves using optimization algorithms. What optimization algorithm? What is your batch size? What is your epoch? What are the methods to change your hyperparameters, and how do you go about it? Not all of this might be applicable to you, but as you sit down with your data scientists or machine learning experts, this source that we are sharing with you kinds of become your ready reckoner that you can go ahead and um, use while you are doing your fine tuning, right? Fine tuning is essentially giving a set of instruction to the LLM model saying that, okay, this is what you're supposed to do, and these are the tasks that you're supposed to answer. If I look at the steps, right, these are the steps that a PM needs to follow while they do fine tuning. So you select the pre-trained model that we already talked about. Once you select the pre-trained model, then you add a task specific layer and task specific keywords. That you are a LLM model which is supposed to do product categorization, cataloging, and inventorization for Flipkart, right? You train on all the data that you have. You can classify your entire data set as training data, labeling data, noisy data. You train on that. Then you freeze certain layers, try to test it, see the accuracy of it. If it needs further training, you provide it more data. And once it is trained, then you define your hyperparameters. Do you want it to hallucinate? Do you don't want it to hallucinate? Do you want it to be imaginative? Do you want it to be predictable? You define all of that. And again, it for those who are hearing this for first time, who are very aloof from AI, who have not done any of this, it might sound rocket science, but trust me, keep following us on YouTube, or just keep attending these sessions. We have been talking a lot about all of this over the last 1 year. Just look at our YouTube videos if you're not someone who's looking to get a planned cohort based learning for 2 months. If you're not enrolling into the cohorts, keep following along, keep reading these free resources that we share in terms of articles and content, and all of this will gradually start making sense to this. Once you have done all of this fine tuning, you know what are the instructions you have given to your model. The second part comes to is roll out, A/B test, and evaluate, and what are the metrics that you need to have. I've been speaking a lot. It's been like 34-35 minutes. I'll take a pause. I'll take some questions, and I'll also drink some water. Before we get into, once you have selected, you have fine-tuned your feature, your model, your product is going out to the users, what do you do from there on? We'll cover after like a 5 minutes break.
Arun, I
So
think there are quite a few questions if you want to take something
yeah,
up.
I've answered most of them. I don't know if there is something that I've not answered, and you can put your questions in chat. We can take them up. I've tried to answer everything that was asked, at least so far that I could see. Um, but great. Thanks for all the good questions and seeing the count stay as is, I'm assuming it's not rocket science for you. All of you understand AI, and I know I when I deliver theory, my speed is really fast, and I try to cover as much content as I can. As I said, I will try to share all these resources where we have gotten this content from. We want to democratize AI learning. That's why when we did upskilling at Product Space, the course that we took from Maven, and you can go ahead and look at Maven courses from CPO of OpenAI without naming them. It's 2.5 lakh, 3 lakh rupees, right? We clearly said Indian audiences cannot afford that. Let's pay from our pockets, get this done, and then offer it at a uh, lower price. We are not pushing or we are not shoving the course down your throat. If you are just wanting to learn, be associated with us. One of the question was, how do I keep doing it? Just join these weekend sessions with us, and we'll make sure the quality of mentors that we are bringing and the resources that we are sharing with you are value added, and you keep upskilling with us, right? So I am, as you saw it, right, I'm already waitlisted on Kiro. So as soon as we get out of the wait list, we get access to it, we'll be the first one in India to do session on this. Trust us, we were also the first one and only one who did DeepSeek breakdown. Why did DeepSeek cause a 200 billion bloodbath of all the dollars and all the value, right? What was the DeepSeek O3 research paper? Why did Nvidia, Microsoft, all these big companies lost significant valuation on Wall Street, right? So we will because we in our community we share resources and AI related happenings every week. Our idea is to keep people informed and bring out the best AI products. It's the ecosystem of Indian products at this point of time is not creating LLM models, but Mahindra and Servaram AI have both started doing that. We'll start seeing our own native LLM models also come out, but we want to be in that ecosystem where PMs like you and PMs like us are contributing to these products. With that, let me come back, cut short on Gyan, and let me come back to the actual theory of it. Once we have done the fine tuning, once you have launched this, there are multiple things that you can evaluate on your model, right? You can A/B test, you can check with your users which one do they prefer. Some of the metrics that are very prevalent are factuality. How is it fact based? Where is the resources? Where is the citation coming from? LLM certainty, uncertainty, where there is percentage of hallucination which is detected. There is prompt perplexity. Now you know where the word perplexity comes from. Prompt perplexity is a measure of how clearly is the model able to get the user response and perform the task versus the prompt is ambiguous. How much is the context relevance in the prompt? If I'm asking about e-commerce, is it give me response about e-commerce, or is it does it just throw rabbits here and there, right? How complete is the response? Is user asking more queries to get a complete answer, or is it complete in its all form? Chunk attribution and utilization, is every chunk clearly attributed to the source of it? And what are the data error potentials, wherein the data itself which was used for training was error prone? And what are the safety metrics? These are all theory. How do you actually measure them? What is the telemetry that you get behind it, right? Of course, I'll not be able to cover all of them, but let's take one example which is very popular in the chat also, which is RAG, retrieval augmented generation. What is retrieval augmented generation? I know LLM models are trained on all the data of the internet. I want to set up something of my own where I have my own data, which I don't want to share publicly, my own database of all the things that Arun wants to learn about. When I ask a prompt, I ask the GPT or the LLM model to look at my RAG and look at all the data it has, combine both of them, and then give me the response. Right now, how do you evaluate if your RAG is effective or not? Which is if you seek chunk attribution and utilization and completeness score, this is measured by, think you have created a RAG or a repository where you have stored all your files and all your documents. Every file will have a file number, which is document precision, and every file within that file or website will have number of pages. How many pages does it have, which is called page precision. So in my RAG, if I have file 1 and I am looking for response from page number 3 and 6, and then I have a file 2 where I am um, looking from page number 23, how will I measure this? So I will ask the LLM model, give me the response. It gives me a response with 5 chunks. That is what is chunk attribution, right? In these 5 chunks, I ask it, where did you pick these from? And it tells me I picked from page 32, page 66, page this, and file number this. I am able to see that it is only able to access one chunk correctly, which is page 3 of file number 1. So my precision of document is 100% because it is picking both the documents 1 and 2, but it is picking only one um, page or one specific classifier. So if my page precision is 1 out of 3, only 3 is picked, 3, 6, and 23, only one is picked. So that is 33%. This is how you implement these metrics in your systems. Again, because this is just a 1 hour session and we are already at 1 hour mark, we'll not be able to drain all the metrics. But as I said, if you want to learn about each of these metrics, go. Are you seeing just the slides or are you seeing the entire screen?
We're seeing the slides, Arun, right now.
Let me share the window then. So go into this document, read how you can implement MMLU, or if you want to have code score or ARC score, drop score, how is it implemented? What are the tests it has? Go to the GitHub repository of them, look at the code implementation, look at the test, and also see the maths if you want to build it in your own systems. And it will give you the score for all the latest models also, right? I will also share this link, which I had promised for metrics. Now, for you to know these metrics better and to be able to replicate them in your interviews, metrics resource. So copy paste this, because once we close the call, you'll not be able to access any of this, right? Please copy paste this and keep it handy. Going back to the deck, right? If you look at metrics, there can be multiple metrics and their definition, how do you implement the telemetry behind it, are provided here. Generally, there are 4 type of metrics. One is response quality, which is how much is the correct, how much is the groundedness, how much is the safety, how much is the relevance. And then there is retrieval. Was it able to retrieve the right chunk, right page, right website while it was doing RAG? Then there is cost. How much is the input cost and how much are you paying? And then the latency, which is performance related metric. Go to this resource, read about each one of them, how is it measured, and it gives you the math, it gives you the code, and it gives you a brilliant example at the bottom explaining each one of them in detail, how it works. Every metric is very detailed explained, and it gives you this great example also, like this with audio, like not audio, with visuals to understand this metrics, right? It's time and we are at time, but if you just look at, there are 6 metrics, right? There is response metric, there is retrieval metrics, there is latency metrics, there is performance metric, there is safety metrics, and there is RAG metrics. If I just look at one type of it, let's say just safety metric, that itself can be broken down into these many ways. What is the toxicity of content? You define some keywords and define the toxicity. Then you can take stereotyping biases, saying that, okay, what are the demographics that you can discover in the training data set? Are you stereotyping any part of it, right? Then there is adversarial robustness, where you give a score if the user is asking adversarial prompts like how can I kill someone, or how can I burn down a house, or how can I hotwire a car, right? Then there is out of distribution robustness, is it picking something which it is not trained on? There is privacy, hallucination, tone appropriations. There is fairness, is it giving responses agnostic of geography, location, and device type? There is machine ethics. Is it following the guardrails that you have put in fine tuning, or is it going outside its way to do Dan behavior, right? So when you start reading metrics and when you read through this article, you'll realize the 6 category of metrics itself, which is response, retrieval, latency, performance, cost, and RAG. They are so detailed, they can go so much into depth that each one keeping a track of it is difficult. I think probably 2 to 3 weeks from now, we'll try to do AI product managers metric session alone, which will give you the frameworks and outline of this. But at least for today, I think that is what we could cover. I don't